Mission to the Moon Podcast Continue with your mission
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับคุณ Sigve. It's a great honor to have you with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much. So you just finished your quarantine in Bangkok. So this is quite a long trip for you, right?
Yeah, I've been 2 weeks after the quarantine,
right.
And so 1 month altogether.
Oh.
And I just love traveling. And I used to go to Asia from Norway, once every month. But since March, I haven't been traveling at all. So I just said that this is it. I need to get out.
That's awesome. I would like to ask you a little bit about the telecommunication business at present, and maybe even the future of the telecommunication business, because I think COVID might accelerate a lot of stuff, including telecom business as well.
Yeah, when the COVID started back in March, April,
Right.
Of course, the first phase was a little bit crisis management, trying to make sure that we could have all our employees could be safe when they worked, but also that our customers had the services. So we actually moved 90% of all our employees into their homes from office, so home office. And the first challenge was actually to how can we run the entire operation from home offices, and we were not really used to that. Fortunately, we had invested in digital tools, so it made it possible. But after the first few weeks, we start thinking about what's the new normal going to look like
Right.
after the COVID is over. What is going to change? Telenor, we operate in 9 different countries with 180 something million customers. So we started to look at how is this going to look globally, not only in Thailand or in Norway. And then very early on, we came out and said that there are 3 things that are going to change. And these 3 things, the first one is that we think people are going to change the way they work. A more flexible work style. They are going to choose more digital tools. They're going to stay maybe home some days, maybe at another place some days, and then maybe come 3-4 days to office a week. So that was the first one. And we think this is going to happen in all industries. So kind of going to office every day from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, we think that permanently going to change. The second thing is that we think that people are going to be much more digital. So digital first. So you will still see shops, stores in telecom sector and in other sectors, but people will be much more kind of what we call omni-channel. They will find products online and maybe decide what to buy, but actually buy it physically in a store. So the digital journey is going to accelerate much faster than actually what we have seen in the past. And this being both in the private sector, telecom sector, but also in the public sector. We think people also are going to demand more public services, also being digital. And the third change is what we call no-touch operation. What that means is that you will see much more investments into robotics, automation, AI, artificial intelligence, to run your factories, run your operation without any human touch. So it will be fully automated. So these are the 3 things that we think is going to be the new normal. And this is what we now are investing in. Because we think that the companies that are able to really understand this is going to come out much stronger from the crisis. So we have told ourselves that in every crisis there is an opportunity. And these are the kind of 3 things that we look at as an opportunity.
Right. For that, Telenor Group being one of the largest telecommunications groups in the world, what do you see the industries moving towards in, say, 5 years from now?
It's in 5 years from now, you have 5G everywhere.
Right.
And 5G is different than the other Gs. So kind of first you had 2G,
Right.
that was only talking. Then you have 3G, which was a little bit more data, and then you had 4G with more data. But it was all about kind of connectivity. It was just changing from voice to data. 5G is different because 5G has 3 things that 4G and 3G didn't have. The first is that it's very, very fast. So you can do much more with heavy data loads, much faster. The second thing is that in the 5G network, you can, we call it slicing. It means that you can own one channel in the network. So for example, if you have 5G to connect your home, broadband, you can reserve one guaranteed speed. Or if you are, for example, using 5G in a hospital, and you don't want the services to go down, you can have your own channel. And this is very important if you want to use 5G in more industrial production, for example, to run factories digitally, then you need to have your own channel. And the third part that people don't really think about, it's the what we call the latency, or the delays in the network. On a 4G, you don't feel that when you talk on your phone and when you use data. But if you want to really do more advanced services, for example, if you want to have autonomous driving, you have to take away the delay in the network. If you want to have remote operations where a doctor is sitting one place and actually operating a patient in another hospital remotely, then you cannot have any delays. Or if you want to be doing gaming, for example, advanced gaming, if you ask a gamer, he will tell you that I cannot do game on a 4G network because there is a small delay. So I have to have a fixed network. On 5G you can do that. And then you, what we call the augmented realities or virtual realities, where you basically are bringing yourself into a new reality, or you are bringing a new reality into your phone. You can, for example, use your phone when you go shopping, and you can see the shop as if you are in the shop, and you can pick the product digitally. Then also you need a 5G. So what I'm trying to say is that 5G is going to change the way we do connectivity. It's going to be much more automated services, much more digital services, both in the private sector and in the public sector. And back in Europe, Telenor is a part of a European study where we have lots of different pilots where we are testing this out. So we test it out with hospitals. How can we run hospital digitally? We test it out with emergency services. For example, when a patient is picked up in an ambulance or in an emergency helicopter, doctor can start treating the patient before he or she comes to the hospital. We are testing it out with factories. We are testing it out with autonomous boats that can run without any people on the boat. And there are a lot of these use cases that will change the way things work. So that is the future of telecom sector. But a lot of that you have to do in partnerships. So you will probably see the telecom companies building the networks, creating the connectivity, and then work with partners, being gamers, for example, being cloud providers, or being other providers to really use this capability of 5G.
Will this change the business model of operator like Telenor? It will,
because it's today an operator like Telenor. We are basically the whole what we call the value chain. We are doing ourselves. We own the license.
Right.
We connect you to the network. We have our IT system, and we also sell our SIM cards. So kind of everything from the license to the customer is done by the operator. In the future, you will see cooperation, and you will see that you are not doing everything yourself anymore. You do it together with partners. And that's going to happen with 5G. I think you see more partnership with governments and the public sector. For example, in a hospital, to run a hospital, we can do connectivity, and the medical staff will of course take charge of the services. But you will also see it in the industry and the manufacturing sector.
The cost of building the 5G network, is that gonna? I heard that there are a lot of concerns that the cost of it will overwhelm the price you can charge for the customer. Will that be the case for the 5Gs?
Yes or no? if the only thing you do is to upgrade to the 5G and then you do nothing more, you get no money more for it. It's just customers continue to do what you do today, and they are not willing to pay anything for the speed.
Right.
Then it will be very difficult because then you keep on investing and you are not able to monetize it. But if you are able then to go in here and to build some use cases, then you are able to get paid for it, and then I think you have a good business model. And I think that in my view, and I was speaking to the minister today also, because I think 5G is also an opportunity to kind of go from fixed line to mobile broadband. Because with 5G, you don't have to have a fiber to your home. You can connect every single household in Thailand to a wireless broadband connection. So you use the 5G network, and then you have a small router in your home, and your whole home is then having a Wi-Fi solution. So that's another example on how you can use new technology to serve all the households in a better way and get paid for it. So if you find that business model, I think you will be able to get some return on your investments.
So internet for everyone, it's possible
Yes.
under this model.
And that is not possible if you think about only the fixed internet. There is no way that you will be able to connect every single household in Norway or in Thailand with a fiber.
Right.
Because it is too expensive. But you don't need that with 5G, because then you can use the wireless connection to the homes. And I think that this is a big opportunity for every country. Give everyone internet. Every single household should have internet, in addition to the phone that you have.
Oh, let me shift gear a little bit towards something that I think a lot of people are looking up to you. Management people, management organization like Telenor. My first question is, I think there's a lot of people aged, say, from 35 to 50 something that quite getting scared of how things move these days, how fast things move these days, how unpredictable things move these days. They feel obsolete. How do you think that people in that age group, say 35 to until 55, that in that particular age group, should thinking about reskilling themselves or upskill or something?
That's a very good question, because I think if you kind of look back the last 2-3 decades or 4 decades, it was about finishing your education.
Right.
And then you picked a profession that you were educated in, and then you stayed with that profession, maybe even stayed with that employer the rest of your life.
Right.
That is going to change. Because I think that you will not finish your education after college or after a master degree. It will be a continuous learning the whole life. So my advice is that you should, of course, you should finish your education because that gives you a platform. But then you need to make sure that you continue to educate yourself throughout your life. If not, you will be obsolete. So in Telenor, for example, I have launched something I call the 40-hour challenge. And that is that I'm telling all the Telenor employees that you should take at least 40 hours off during a year. Not your free time, but off your working hours to reskill or upskill yourself. And then we are providing a lot of courses, a lot of training, so that people can pick and choose to either learn something completely new or to broaden what they already know. And to my big surprise, this has become very, very popular. That's one example of a continuous learning. So that's my first advice. Continue to learn your whole life. And secondly, I think you will see people moving much more between employers, between companies. And I think that's okay, because you will, in this digital future, you will see companies die and grow much faster. And that's why you need to be able to be flexible. So in the end of the day, I wouldn't be so concerned for the people in the 35 or 45 or 55. I wouldn't be so concerned, because there will be some of the jobs will disappear, but some new jobs are also going to be created. especially in the service sector. I saw a study that had studied the doctor and cancer. And the study had looked at what is the percentage of mistakes a doctor is doing when he's or she is trying to figure out what type of cancer the patient has. I don't remember the percentage, but the mistakes is some percentage. Also, sometimes the doctor just is wrong. And then they had looked at artificial intelligence and used as a machine to figure out the same thing for that patient, and taking hundreds of thousands of cases and putting it into a machine. And that took down the failure that the doctor had quite significantly. So that's an example. Why should the doctor spend a lot of time on reading a lot of magazines or books or studies to figure out what is really the problem with this patient? Why not combine the doctor's experience with the machine's experience, such that the doctor can use more his time to treat the patient rather than searching through all those the literature. That's an example. So you will change the way you work, more service-oriented work. And I think that the digital, I wouldn't be so afraid that the digitalization is taking away a lot of jobs. It will, but new jobs will be created. But it means that you also need to be more dynamic and flexible yourself. I call it the perfect storm. And the perfect storm for me, it's when IoT, also Internet of Things, where everything is being connected with sensors. So more and more millions of things are being connected, combined with 5G, which is a different type of network, combined with AI. When these three forces comes together, it will change the way we are producing services and products. And the way it will change, it's that you will, as I said, take away some routine jobs. You will take away some dangerous work and replace that with robots. You will probably take away the accountants doesn't need to use the calculator to calculate. The machine will do that. So a lot of that you will take away. But then you will focus more on services. Why should the accountant use a lot of time on pushing in numbers? Why shouldn't the accountant rather use machines to do that? And then use the accountant's time to actually study the accounts to figure out, is there something here that is not right? And that will be much more valuable time spent for that accountant. So more services, more analysis, because there is a lot of things that the machine cannot do. The machine cannot consider. They do not have the kind of the human touch that a person has. But again, you need to be prepared for the change of this. And I think that this will revolutionize the private sector, but even more so the public sector. And especially in the health sector, why shouldn't people be able to live at home and be treated rather than travel to the hospital? Why couldn't you sit at home to measure your blood pressure? Your blood sugar, having a machine doing the dialysis on you? Why do you have to travel to the hospital to do that? Why do you even have to be in the hospital to do some of these checks? You should be able to do that at home and send and communicating with the database in the hospital. That's one example. In the transportation sector, why do you regulate the traffic lights in Bangkok on time, that you keep the green so long and the yellow so long? Why don't you regulate it in relation to actually the traffic pattern instead? On boats, why some of the ferries, why they have to have people to run the ferries? Why can't it be autonomous? Why do you have warehouse? Why do you actually have to have people working in a warehouse? Why can't everything in a warehouse be automated, taking away some dangerous jobs? So it will change a lot. And the advice I would have to the governments, it's to start thinking about what do we do with the data. Because the data is the most valuable part in this perfect storm I'm talking about. And where do I want to store the data? Do I want to store the data in Thailand because I want to make sure that it's secure? What type of data do I want to store? What is the privacy? What do I want the health data to be used for? By the way, Google is knowing a lot about you. Google has a lot of health data about you already.
Yes.
And it's not stored in Thailand. It's not controlled by the Thai government. It's not even controlled by you. So these are some of the dilemmas you need to start thinking about. And the data part of this, it's what is the most valuable and the way you treat that.
You run a very big company with various locations, a lot of staff, and cultural difference. I imagine you must have a lot of experience with the cultural gap with say Thai and Norway or in other places. What do you think about diversity and your leadership?
That's a very good question. First of all, to kind of live in this more dynamic future as you ask about, diversity is going to be more important. Because if you kind of have only one set of thinking, one set of background, one set of experience, you will not be able to be flexible enough, dynamic enough, and to really understand the international business, in my view. So diversity for any businesses, being global business or national business, is going to be more important. And to me, what diversity is, it's gender diversity, it's cultural diversity, it's age diversity, and it's background diversity. So, for example, we have made a policy in Telenor that we are operating in 9 countries. In every country, we should have at least 2 or 3 different nationalities in the management team, because diversity is important. And we also have a policy that we would like at least 30% of the management teams in all our business units to be females. So this for me is very, very important. And in my management team in the Telenor Group, global group, I have now 35% females, and I also have diversity in terms of culture background. So for me, this is very important, and this is really something I think people need to pay attention to. Then to your question, I've been so fortunate to live in Norway, in the US, in Singapore, in Thailand, and also in India. So I've seen different cultures. And in the end of the day, people are people. In the end of the day, people like to be respected, people like to be accepted, and people like to be noticed, and people like to contribute. That's the same across all cultures. One of the core values of Telenor is being respectful to different people that have different backgrounds. I will say that it's just for me as a guy from Norway to be able to work in Thailand. The most important thing is to be respectful to the Thai culture, being respectful to your background, your religion, your way of thinking. And after having lived many years in Thailand, that's what I try to do, being respectful. And when I was respectful, I got respect back. So that's the way I handle cultural differences, and I think they could be handled. But being respectful means that you are not arrogant. You do not think that you are better. You do not think that you know better. You do not think that your culture or your way of working is better. That's not being respectful. Because every culture has strengths. Every culture has challenges. But being respectful is the most important part.
I think that is a very good lesson for all of us. How about your leadership style? What do you consider to be a good leader, in your opinion?
Many years ago, when I was CEO in DTech, I also wrote a book that the name I think was My Life as a Coach.
Yeah, I have that book.
You have that book. And that title was actually a way of answering your question. And the most important thing a leader should do is to make sure that you are recruiting a diverse team and actually recruiting people that are different from yourself in both the thinking but also the competences. The strongest leader are the one that actually have people around him or her that know more about the topic than you do yourself. Secondly, it is to build a team. And a team to me is not just a gathering of individuals. Team is for me when people are fully respecting each other, fully trusting each other, are able to disagree but still move on when they go out of the room, and have that ability to kind of build on each other's strengths and arguments. That is a team. And everyone will say that they have a team, but it's very hard actually to build a team that is more than just a coordination of individuals. So that's the second one. And the third one, as a leader, it's to develop people, constantly coach. Because everyone has strengths and everyone have weaknesses. And it's to kind of deal with the weaknesses, improve the weaknesses, but also improve the strength. So that is a leader for me. And I think that going forward, I think leadership is going to be more important in a world where I think there will be more flexibility, going back to where we started. And the way I'm describing this with simple words, it's that you have to have a trust-based leadership. And a trust-based leadership, I call it tight, loose, tight. Tight, you have to be tight on setting the expectations, to making sure that your subordinates and the organization know what to do, what is the strategy. You have to be tight on that. Not every leaders are good at this. Actually, this is one of the most difficult things to do as a leader, to make sure that everyone in the organization know the strategy. And you need to be a very good storyteller to do that. So that's tight. Loose, it's to empower. Empower people to figure out how to do things themselves. And it's more important the way things are done than where they are done. I'm more than happy to have people working from home forever, as long as they conduct their work and as long as that works for them. So that's loose. Again, very difficult, because as a leader, you then also sometimes have to let people fail. And you have to let people explore and learn. And then there is tight again, the last one, and that is that you need to be good at follow-up. Measuring results, giving feedback. But many leaders are tight. They are tight on what to do, they are telling you how to do it, and they are tight on follow-up. That doesn't work. And many leaders are also loose. They're not making it clear what to do, not really following up. So this trust-based leadership, I think, is important to handle that dynamic future.
Wow, that alone can be a very good article by itself. That is awesome. I'm thinking about what I'm doing right now at the company, so I have to change a lot. Okay. Thank you for that recommendation. I'm sure that the listener will be, can adapt to your very, very insight recommendation as well. Let's shift gear a little bit more. Apart from our COVID crisis at the moment, I think everybody kind of agree that we have another very big crisis waiting to happen to the entire world, which is the climate crisis. And it's going to be much bigger than COVID, a lot of people said. And I think it started already. What do you think about that? And as a big corporation, how do Telenor respond to the crisis that will definitely come soon, very soon from now?
No, first of all, I think you are right. I think we are up against a real crisis in the years to come. And I think that the younger generation are actually realizing that. So I see that in Telenor, that people are picking employer now based on what type of values do the company have, not only the pay or the bonus. And it's not only environment, it is kind of everything that you can call sustainability, to actually do something good for the society. And then, so I think that every company actually need to have a view on this. And for us, for Telenor, there are two things we are working on. One is to work on our own climate emission. And we are by far the worst polluter, the telecom industry. But we are also using diesel aggregates to give power to our base stations. And we are also across our portfolio using what I call dirty grid power. Also grid power that is produced with not so energy-friendly methods. So what we are trying to do is to stop using this diesel power, and we are also trying to together with others convince the governments around that you should produce more clean energy, because then we can buy that from them. And on top of that, of course, we are trying to reduce the number of cars that are run by fossil energy and start to use electricity cars and so on. So that's one part of it. And the target we have said is that we want to cut in the Nordics. We are in the 4 Nordic countries where we have clean produced energy, basically hydro energy. We have said that in 2030 we will be absolutely carbon neutral. And then we have said in Asia this is more challenging due to the grid power. So we have said that in 2030 we want to cut our emission with at least 50%. So that's what we can do ourselves. More importantly for us actually is what we can do indirectly. And then back to what we said on this digitalization. Because you can actually use digital ways of reducing other industries' emission. With automation, with robotics, with SIM cards in things or sensors in things, and to reduce the traffic pattern and to reduce other industries' emissions. So we are also working on that, the indirect effect that we can have on reducing the overall emission.
So like reducing people travel on the street,
yes,
for example, right? Or the time on the streets.
Yes, for example.
Or
less traveling at all using video conferencing, for example. All those type of things.
Let me ask you a little bit about Thailand. You have spent many years in Thailand before you go back to Norway. What do you think is our challenges, the whole country's challenge, that we need to try to change or to adapt?
Well, let me first talk a little bit about your strength.
Okay.
I think that Thailand has a lot of strength. The first strength you have, it's the kind of the size of the country. 60, 70 million people, kind of mid-sized country. You are not small, but you are not among the biggest. You have a quite, your population, there's no big conflicts between religious groups, for example. Most people have food. You have a very, what I call, innovative spirit in your culture. There's a lot of innovation in Thailand. So you have a lot of strength that, not least in this digital future, I think that Thailand could be absolutely a digital leader in the Southeast Asia. Then you have a huge strength in your culture itself. The hospitality, for example, the kindness that you have. Always seeking compromises rather than kind of win or lose concept. All that is really a strength that I would play on. I remember that when I was in DTEC, we developed this happy brand. And I remember that before we did that, we discussed a lot what is kind of the real characteristics on the Thai culture. And we came up with this Kun-di concept. And then we developed that into Jai-di. And then we started with Jai-di services. And we just saw that this is actually a way to describe the Thai culture. Being nice, being considerate, actually being respectful to others. You have a lot of that in your culture, and that's why you avoid. Even when you have demonstrations like you have now, it's relatively friendly demonstrations. And this is so good in your country and make you kind of overcome a lot of challenges. But then to your question, what can you do better? I think that you really should sit down, and I'm going to meet the minister, as I said, later today, and figure out how can we use this uniqueness and actually take a position in a digital future. And I think that you have everything it takes, but it needs policies, it needs clear government decisions. Of course, over time, you need also to have a more stable political situation. But I think that's doable. So I'm very positive when it comes to Thailand.
Last but definitely not least question.
Already last? Wow.
We already just spent almost an hour of your time. Yes.
Wow.
So just going to be my last question. What do you have to say to the next generation, the young generation, millennials, late Gen Ys that going to come up into workforce right now and going to be responsible for the world that we're going to retire soon? So what do you have to say for the next generation?
The first thing I want to say, it's try to learn as much as you can in your younger days. Take your education, don't specialize too quickly, because the world is going to be more complicated, so you need to know a little bit about a lot of things, more than going very, very deep too early. Don't specialize too early, because you need that flexibility going forward. That's from an educational point of view. Second, try to figure out quite early what do you want. What is your legacy going to be when you are sitting in the rocking chair, 80 years old, and thinking back on the life, because every person should contribute to the society. So it's more than getting a nice job, a nice title, a nice salary, a nice car. It is about contribution to society. So early on, think about what's going to be your contribution. Is it going to be politics? Is it going to be fighting for the climate? Is it going to be health sector, helping people? What is it? And try to figure that out early. And then thirdly, it's don't spend too much time in planning your career. And what I mean by that, it sounds a little bit strange, but what I mean by that is try to do what as best as you can where you are at any time, and then you grab your opportunities when they come. Because you need that flexibility going forward. Don't get stuck in one type of career path or one kind of sector. Move around. And in addition to that, and I know that this most Thais don't like. If you in addition to that, try to go abroad and get some experience. Back to your question, cultural diversity. Learn something from a different culture.
Wow, this is a lot of wisdom in less than an hour. Thank you so much, Mr. Sigve. This is a real honor. I mean, I've been following you up
I'm the only one to be on your show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr.
ขอบคุณมากครับ
ขอบคุณมากครับ
Mission to the Moon Podcast Continue with your mission